I am Laura Dixon, and you are listening to the Naturally Thin for Life podcast, episode number 80. Emotional eating is not what you think. Welcome to the Naturally Thin for Life podcast. I'm going to teach you how to get out of your diet brain so that you too can be naturally thin for life. No counting, restricting, or obsessing. I am going to take the mystery out of it for you so that you can become naturally thin starting today. Are you ready? Let's do this. Hello, friends. Welcome back to the podcast. Emotional eating is what we're talking about today, and it is a term that is really misunderstood and, in my thought, really misused. So today, I want to share with you what emotional eating really is and why it's critical to understand for you specifically in your weight loss journey and how it will create so much freedom for you and ease for you as you lose weight. Before we get started, make sure you subscribe to the podcast if you're enjoying it and getting a lot out of it so you're always getting the latest episodes. And have you left a review yet? If you're loving the podcast, please take a few seconds to leave a review and write a review because when you do, that helps the podcast reach other women who haven't even found it yet. Like Carrie Ann, who I want to acknowledge, she sent me this message and I just had the biggest smile as I read it. She said, I started listening to your podcast at the beginning of May 2021. When I'm recording that's less than 3 months ago. And she said, on only day 35, I was down 14.4 pounds. She said, I had a few days of stumbling and I'm back up a couple of pounds from my lowest weight, but I'm amazed at how easy and rewarding this has been. And I'm eager to get back on track today. Thank you. Seriously, how incredible is the internet? I use my brain. I think about all of you a lot, by the way. Then I write a podcast, I record a podcast, my producer edits it, and they put it out there for you, and then you use the internet to listen to it, and then you use your brain to think differently, and you lose weight. Seriously, the world we live in today, it's like I get to take my brain, hand it over to your brain to help you in a way that serves you to lose weight and create so much more ease and effortlessness in your life. So, even though sometimes there's a lot of craziness happening in this world, it's also pretty incredible when you think about it. I think about how I help hundreds and now thousands of women lose weight over the internet. Like, really think about it. It's quite amazing how powerful our brains are. Anyways, sidetracked on the power of the internet. But when you take a minute to write a review and leave a review, it helps the podcast suggest the podcast to women that don't even know it exists yet. So I say thank you. They say thank you. It's all part of the internet magic. So now back to emotional eating. Mayo Clinic defines emotional eating as this. Emotional eating is eating as a way to suppress or soothe negative emotions, such as stress, anger, fear, boredom, sadness, and loneliness. Major life events, or more commonly, the hassles of daily life, can trigger negative emotions that lead to emotional eating and disrupt your weight loss efforts. Now, really think about this definition and then add in all of the messaging we get from TV and media about things like breaking up with someone and being really down and sad and eating ice cream, or having a hard day and telling yourself, of course I deserve the cookie. I am included in all of this as well because I always thought emotional eating was eating when you're sad, depressed, or down, and it has a really negative connotation to it. Here is the lie, though, in all of this. Ready? All eating is emotional eating. Every single bite of food any one of us ever puts in our mouth, we always have an emotion that precedes that behavior. Physically, as humans, we cannot take action of any kind ever without first having a feeling or an emotion. And I use the words feeling and emotion interchangeably here. We always have an emotion first. So all eating is emotional eating. It's just a really common misconception that it's only because we're sad or depressed or down. All eating is emotional. And so you want to then eat from an emotional place because that's how it works. But what you want is you want to feel in control of the emotion that drives your eating. Consider this. Your body releases the hormone ghrelin. It tells you when you're hungry. This is not an emotion. This is a hormone. It's a reaction in your body that then the release of the hormone sends a signal to your brain. An emotion, on the other hand, starts with a thought, a sentence in your mind. And then when you have that sentence in your mind, those words strung together, your brain fires and sends a signal to another part of your brain that then releases peptides into your body, which creates an emotion and you feel it. That's why we call it a feeling, because you feel it in your nervous system, in your body. Only once you have an emotion in your body, and you always have an emotion in your body. Someone described it to me once like shapeshifters, right? Like you have calm, and then you have stress, and then you have anxiety, and then you have pressure, and then you have love, and then you have joy, right? There's always an emotion in your body, and that predominant emotion in your body is always what's driving your action. So you must have an emotion that precedes eating always. It's how it works. So back to hunger, your body has the hormone ghrelin, the hunger hormone, in your body. And let's say you're working and you're distracted and you're not really thinking about the hunger. You don't even notice you're hungry. You're feeling focused and you're writing an email. But then you stop working, you stop writing that email, and let's say you walk to the bathroom, and then your brain has a thought about the ghrelin. You have a sentence in your brain about the ghrelin that might be something like, ooh, I'm hungry. I want to eat now. The sentence in your brain, I want to eat now, is a thought in your mind. The amount of ghrelin, the actual hormone in your body, didn't all of a sudden change in a 30-second window from when you weren't thinking about it and you were writing that email to when you stood up and went to the bathroom. So if your hunger hormone itself didn't change in that 30-second window, what did? Your thought changed, right? The sentences in your brain changed. You then have the thought, the sentence in your mind, I want to eat now. That thought, that simple little thought, creates a reaction in your brain where then your brain sends peptides into your body to create the emotion of desire. You didn't have the emotion of desire to eat a minute ago, and now you do. So an emotion will always precede every time you eat. Isn't that wild? You always have an emotion before any action. If you're anything like me, I grew up thinking feelings didn't matter, emotions were just for weak people, all of that crap, right? But you always have an emotion before any action. And this is the best news ever because your emotions come from thoughts in your mind. And you can change thoughts in your mind. So you can change your emotional experience to create more of the emotions you want before you eat. That's how you stop battling yourself. Think about this too with emotions. I just like to think about other examples outside of food, and then we're going to come back to food. Let's say you're replying to an email. You're typing and taking the action of typing from an emotion of, say, focused or determined. Think about if you were feeling panic because maybe you had a message that your child broke their arm while they were at school. And then you get this message, that's a circumstance, a fact, right? You get an email with some words or a call and someone tells you something and your brain is thinking, I have to go now, and you feel panic. To then sit down and write an email, probably not going to happen, right? Because you're in a different emotional state. So different than when you're feeling focused or determined. Let's say you're driving, right? You're taking the action of driving from maybe the emotion of clarity. Because you're thinking, you have the thought first, I know where I'm going. So you have the thought, I know where I'm going. You're feeling clarity, and then you take the action of driving. If you think about feeling completely confused, an emotion of complete confusion about how to drive, it's going to be really difficult to take the action of driving, right? You need an emotion that supports the action you want to take. And then think about this example. Think about problem solving in your mind at night while you're in bed. Definitely never done that one before, right? My mind really likes to try to problem solve when I'm going to bed sometimes. So you are taking the action of problem solving from the emotion of, let's say, determined, because you're thinking the thought, I'm going to figure this out, and that thought creates the feeling of determined. You could also be sitting in bed taking the same action of problem solving in your mind, but from the emotion of pressure. Because rather than thinking, I'm going to figure this out, which creates determination, you're thinking, I have to figure this out now, which creates pressure, very different than determination. So same action of problem solving, but coming from different emotions. We've all had the experience of problem solving from emotions like pressure or anxiety versus emotions of feeling focused or determined. It's a totally different experience, right? So it's the same action of problem solving, but your experience of that problem solving is very different because of the emotion driving it. And it's the same with food. You always have an emotion before you eat. Dependent upon what that emotion is, it's going to create a very different experience for you. It's why sometimes you can eat and you feel really calm and it's easy and you easily stop. And other times you feel like you just can't put the fork down, right? You still are taking the same action of eating, but it's coming from a very different emotion. And again, this is the best news ever because your thoughts create your emotions. The sentences in your mind create how you feel, and you can change those sentences in your mind to change how you feel to create the emotions you actually want before you eat. So, what are the emotions you do feel before you eat? There really are only two. We're going to keep this super simple. There are genuinely only two. The calm desire to eat and the urgent desire to eat. There is always only desire right before you eat food. Think about when you're sick and you have no desire to eat, right? You don't eat food because you don't have the desire to eat. In order to eat, you need the desire to eat. So you either have a calm desire or you have an urgent desire to eat. The calm desire, and really think about what that feels like in your body. That calm desire to eat may come from thoughts like, I'm hungry. I'm going to eat now. I know what food feels good in my body. I'm not in a rush. I'll eat in 5 minutes. There's no urgency. There's no panic. There's no freak out. Your brain doesn't interpret hunger as some urgent problem it needs to solve right now. Versus the other emotion that always precedes eating, which is an urgent desire. Urgent desire comes from thoughts. It comes from sentences in your mind like, I feel sad. I need to escape this. I hate hunger. I need to solve this quick. This stress is unbearable. I need to relax now. I'm so bored. I need a distraction. The urgent desire may start with a feeling of stressed or anxious or pressure or restlessness. But here's a nuance that happens that I want you to really think about how this happens for you, because this really is the key to making weight loss so much easier and so much more effortless. What really happens is if you have an emotion first, let's say stress. So there's stress in your body. The peptides are there. You're feeling it. You feel that emotion in your body, and you have trained your brain, probably unconsciously, because I don't know if any of us would do this on purpose, but you've trained your brain to interpret that feeling, that emotion of stress, those peptides in particular in your body, as a problem. So you feel stressed, and then your brain interprets the stress, and it has a thought, a sentence in your mind that might sound like, I just need a break from all this stress. This stress is a problem. I need an escape. Those thoughts about the stress create the urgent desire to eat. And that urgent desire to eat is eating when you aren't hungry, eating past the point of being satisfied, or eating food that feels terrible in your body. What's happened is your brain has associated the emotion of stress in your body when those peptides are there and present. Your brain has been trained unconsciously to interpret that feeling, that emotion, as something's gone wrong, it's a problem, therefore we should eat. And those thoughts are what creates that urgent desire. You've just practiced it so many times, it may feel like it happens automatically, but it isn't actually the stress creating that urgent desire to eat. It's how your brain interprets the stress. So consider this. What if your brain interpreted stress as not being a problem? Rather, your brain had a different thought about the stress. Instead of thinking, I need to escape this now, your brain thought, I know how to let stress pass through my body. And you had the tools to do that. You wouldn't create the urgent desire to eat. If this sounds a little bit like magic, it sort of feels that way when you learn how to do this. If I would have told this to my past self, who had no clue what to do with her anxiety, and you would have told me I could feel anxiety and I could teach my brain to interpret it as not a problem I had to run away from with some panic, but that I could learn how to sit with it and it would dissipate, I would have thought you were a little bit bonkers. But seriously, it really is possible because you sit with other emotions. You sit with emotions of focused, of love, of joy, of relaxation, and your brain doesn't interpret those emotions as something you need to run away from. Why? Because you've taught your brain you don't need to escape them. You've taught your brain that you like them, you enjoy them. This is also why we can think we really enjoy the feeling of excited, but sometimes the feeling of excited leads to an urgent desire to eat, right? Because we feel excited in our body and we've just trained our brain that sometimes we almost feel like it's too much and our brain's like, we got to do something with this. We got to do something with this. We should eat, right? And how your brain's interpreted excitement at times can then lead to an urgent desire. So you don't need to teach your brain how to love anxiety or love pressure or love restlessness or love stress. All you need to do is teach your brain how to interpret those emotions as not an urgent problem you need to solve, and that food is not the solution. How you do this is you learn the skill of allowing emotions in your body without fighting them. You get really curious about what emotions feel like in your body. Where are they? How would you describe them to a little kid? Then you didn't want to freak them out, right? If you really sit with an emotion in your body and you think about describing it as if you were trying to articulate to a 2-year-old what love felt like, what pressure felt like, right? And you didn't want to totally freak them out, how would you do that? That's part of the skill of allowing emotions in your body. Once you learn the tools to allow emotions in your body, it takes about 90 seconds for your brain to do once you've really developed that skill, because it's just a skill you have. And you don't go throughout your day doing this perfectly all the time, but what happens is you teach your brain that you can handle any emotion without needing food. That is freedom, because you don't need the food then as an escape. You just get to want the food to serve your body. You have an unattached relationship where you actually get to enjoy the food that much more because you're not needing for it and grasping for it and searching for it all the time. You just eat when you're hungry, you stop when you're satisfied, and you enjoy the food you do eat. So if the only emotion that exists before you eat is desire, but it's coming from either a calm desire or an urgent desire, you actually want the emotion of desire, right? You want to eat when you are hungry. So you want the desire to eat. So all of your eating is emotional, but you want the calm desire to eat, not the urgent desire to eat. And if you always have an emotion before you eat, always 100% of the time, that is why understanding how your brain interprets emotions and particular emotions that lead to that urgent desire is the key to losing weight and keeping it off with ease. When you understand how your brain specifically experiences different emotions that come before you eat, because the emotion is always there before you eat, then remember, those emotions come from your thoughts, and you can change your thoughts. Therefore, you can change your emotions to experience more calm desire and less urgent desire. This is how myself and all of my clients have gone from obsessively dieting and feeling like it's so hard and it's so terrible because you're battling that urgent desire all the time, to feeling so calm and being naturally thin with ease because you have the calm desire to eat, not that urgent desire to eat. Just like in my example with the action of problem solving, your experience of problem solving in your mind, when you think about doing it in bed at night, let's say, is very different when you feel anxious or pressure to problem solve versus when you feel clear or focused to problem solve. So we are all going to eat for the rest of our lives, but your experience of eating, the type of food, the quantity of food, the enjoyment of your food is vastly different when you feel calm desire before you eat versus when you feel an urgent desire. Just like your experience of the problem solving is different dependent upon the emotion that comes right before it. Here is how you can find out how your brain interprets emotions that lead you to either calm desire or urgent desire. Here's what you want to do. Right in that moment that you notice any desire for food, ask yourself these two questions. Why do I want to eat? Or why do I want to keep eating if you've already started eating? So why do I want to eat or why do I want to keep eating? And then the second question is, how am I feeling right now? These are super simple questions, but the key is to be really honest with yourself. If your answer is, I'm hungry and I want to eat and I feel calm, then ask yourself, what am I thinking that creates this calm desire so that you know what it is and you can feel more of it? Maybe it's a simple sentence like, I'm hungry, I'm going to eat now, or I know what my body wants now. But if your answer is anything other than hunger with a calm desire, then what you want to really understand is this. When you ask yourself those two questions, why do I want to eat or keep eating? And how am I feeling right now? You want to understand what is happening in your brain in that moment. When you understand that, you will learn exactly why you overeat. You will see common patterns. You may see patterns like, I'm stressed, I'm feeling stressed, and I'm not actually hungry, and I have the urgent desire to eat. Then you know your brain interprets stress as being a really big problem, and it thinks the answer is food. Right? Or ask yourself, is it restlessness? And if you struggle with naming emotions, welcome, me too. When I first started doing this work and understanding what emotions, how they really worked, what they really were, how my brain interpreted certain emotions as a problem, I had to Google a lot of emotion lists. My feelings vocabulary used to be quite small. So there's no shame in that. Just Google an emotion list and you will find a multitude of them. You really want to know what it is for you. Do you have an urgent desire to eat when you feel calm and relaxed? Right? My guess is probably not. So you know, okay, those aren't it. What is? Do I feel stressed? Do I feel pressure? Do I feel permissive, justified? Do I feel obligated? Do I feel guilty? Do I feel anxious? Do I feel worried? Do I feel uncertain? Those are all emotions. What are your emotions that lead your brain to then interpret to say, this emotion is a problem, food is the answer? That will be what creates the urgent desire to eat. And maybe it is sadness, like I talked about in the stereotypical example of, I remember like watching Friends, and Chandler had broken up with someone at the time. And Monica and Rachel were like, here you go, you got to eat the ice cream. And then something else happened and they were like, well, no, like you got to eat like the full fat ice cream, right? Like that stereotypical example of being sad and overeating. So what if, even if it is sadness, you could let that feeling be in your body without needing to run away from it and escape it with food? Whether it's sadness or any other emotion, all eating is emotional. And what if you could feel any emotion without needing the food to escape it. How much freedom would you have then? Then you can feel stressed or sad or guilty or pressure or whatever it is. But because your brain has learned to not interpret those emotions as an urgent problem to solve with food, then you might feel stressed and notice your hunger. And you may decide to eat, but you decide to eat and you have a calm desire to eat even though you feel stressed. Earlier this week, I was feeling super bummed out. I was feeling quite sad. All brains, including mine, like to tell me sometimes, nope, but this time, it's not my thought creating the emotion of sadness, it's definitely just happening to me. So even though I've spent years allowing emotions, of course there are times my mind is like, nope, not this one. It's not about being perfect, but here's what happened. I felt sad, the emotion of sadness in my body, but my brain didn't interpret it as a problem I had to solve right then and there with food. So I had no thoughts of food cross my mind as a distraction tactic from the sadness. Then, I'm human, so my body's hungry. I noticed my hunger. I still felt some of that sadness, but I had the calm desire to eat, not an urgent desire to eat. That, my friends, is the power of understanding your own brain and how your brain interprets different emotions. How your brain thinks about some emotions as a problem that it needs to solve right now with food. And how your brain creates that calm desire to eat so that you can have more of that calm desire and less of that urgent desire. Then losing weight becomes so much more enjoyable. It can actually be fun. I love the process of losing weight. And how you lose the weight is the same way you keep it off because you're no longer battling that urgent desire. If you want help with this and you want to learn all of the tools you need to create the calm desire for food rather than urgent desire, make sure you join the Naturally Thin for Life program. You will learn my proven 5-step Naturally Thin for Life process where you become the person whose brain feels that calm desire. And you have the desire for food that matches your ideal body weight because you're not battling that urgent desire. If you're interested in joining the Naturally Thin for Life program, make sure to join in the month of July. That's July 2021 to get access to the live training that I'm putting on for all of you where I am adding an entire bonus course called Naturally Thin Confidence. You will learn how to feel more confident as you lose the weight. It isn't something you wait to have once you've reached your goal. You have to learn how to feel that confidence along the way. And learning how to have that confidence is the key to becoming naturally thin and staying there with ease. So I'm teaching you an entire course. You get access to it automatically when you join the program in the month of July 2021. And if you join the program after July 2021, you will be able to access that course in replay. So listen to the outro to learn more, and I will see you there. Have an amazing day, my friends. I will talk with you all next week. Friend, if you are loving what you are learning here on the podcast, you have to come check out my Naturally Thin for Life program. It is my on-demand lifetime access program where I teach you brand new concepts not taught here on the podcast. And I will walk you through exactly how to implement all of the tools I teach you here so that they become just a part of you. You will learn exactly how to understand your specific brain and your specific body so that you become naturally thin for the rest of your life and you no longer struggle with your weight. Inside of the Naturally Thin for Life program, you can also receive live help so that you consistently make progress and reach your goal. I will teach you how to accelerate your naturally thin journey in a sustainable way so that the change becomes permanent. The best part is that it's risk-free. You either love it or I will give you your money back. If you are ready to finally be naturally thin for life, join us at lauradixoncoaching.com/work with me. That's LAURADIXON coaching.com and click on the Work With Me tab. I cannot wait to see you there.